Gilligan's Island premiered in September 1964 and aired for 3 seasons. While it had a short run, it's become one of the most beloved sitcoms of all time. It's been running in syndication nearly non-stop since it went off the air, which has resulted in several generations of fans. Even though many fans have seen every episode several times, there are plenty of mistakes and details that are easy to miss. In this video, we're going to look at some hidden details you've probably never noticed in Gilligan's Island. Minor goofs you've probably never noticed. Gilligan was a lovable goof on the show, but he wasn't the only one. The show's production had a few goofs of its own. 2 on a Raft. The first episode of the show, 2 on a Raft, had a bit of a goof when Gilligan and the skipper were on a raft with sharks all around. When Skipper throws the sail, you can see the fake backdrop of the sky behind the water tank. Creases on the fabric are visible, and you can see a gap between the bottom of the sky and the water. So sorry, my island now. In this episode, a tiny Japanese submarine shows up at the castaways' island. When Gilligan gets in to look for help, he leaves the top hatch open, which is the main joke of the scene. But when Bob Denver, the actor who played Gilligan, is filming, you can clearly see his legs and feet splashing around the submarine, even though he's supposed to be inside it beneath the surface. In that same episode, when Gilligan finally gets the hatch closed, he circles around the lagoon. You can see the periscope darting around aimlessly, and at some points you can see the scuba tank of the prop man moving the periscope around. Fortunately, the film was sped up, so it's hard to catch. They're off and running. Early in this episode, Gilligan and the skipper are racing turtles. If you look closely, you can see a wedding ring on Gilligan's hand. Given that there's no mention of him being married and the ring is never visible in other episodes, clearly Bob Denver forgot to remove it. The Friendly Physician. At the end of this episode, the gang returns home on a small boat. In the background, you can see tall buildings beyond the trees around the lagoon. They're either buildings on the studio lot or parts of the LA skyline. Pass the vegetables, please. At the end of this episode, the 7 castaways are sitting together, eating, and bubbles start flying out of their mouths. When Mary Ann discovers her bubbly tummy, you can see what looks like a metal clamp holding the effects hose that spits out the bubbles. Man with a net. In this episode, a lepidopterist arrives on the island in search of the pussycat swallowtail butterfly. When he's leaving, he knocks out the 7 castaways, leaving them marooned on the island. They're all supposed to be unconscious, but if you look closely, you can see Natalie Schafer, the actress who played Mrs. Howell, open her eyes. Personal magnetism. In this episode, pears and grapes float across the dinner table thanks to an invisible Gilligan. We hate to break it to you, but magic isn't real. If you look closely, you can see the wires used to lift the prop fruit, reflecting light near the roof of the hut. The missing 8th castaway. If you're a fan, you can probably sing the theme song from memory, so you'll recall the line that says, 5 passengers set sail that day. If you look closely at the minnow setting sail in the opening credits, you'll count 8 people on board the ship, 1 more that ended up on the island. What happened to that 8th person? Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like, and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. And stick around for some small details you probably overlooked. The skipper's name. Everyone referred to Alan Hale Jr.'s character as the skipper throughout the run, but he did have a real name. The only time you hear it is in a radio broadcast in the first episode, which refers to Jonas Grumby as an old salt. Ginger slept in the nude. In the second episode, the castaways all jump out of bed in the middle of the night. Most are wearing pajamas, but when Ginger first appears, she covers herself with a flap from the tent. When we finally see her, she's wearing a bedsheet. This seems to imply Ginger sleeps au natural. It doesn't seem like a big deal today, but in 1964 it was pretty risque, and it's surprising it slipped past the censors. Ginger seemingly made her own dress on the island. Most of the dresses Ginger wore on the show sparkled like diamonds, particularly in the first season. But every now and then she's seen in a white dress with SS Minnow down the left thigh. That material was recycled from Gilligan's duffel bag, which indicates some impressive sewing skills for being stranded on a deserted island. The set from Gunsmoke. In an episode called The Sound of Quacking, there's a dream sequence in which Gilligan fantasizes the castaways all go western. Those scenes were shot at CBS Studio Center on the Gunsmoke Dodge City sets. If you look closely, you'll see a building labeled Dodge House as well as the Marshal's office. The island has 2 sets of coordinates. Part of the reason the castaways weren't found sooner could be that the island is hard to pinpoint. Two different sets of coordinates are given for its location in Season 1. In the episode X Marks the Spot, a radio report states the island is located at 140 degrees latitude, 10 degrees longitude. A few episodes later, a surfer lands on the island in Big Man on a Little Stick. In that one, the professor tells him to remember the island is located at 110 degrees longitude, 10 degrees latitude. Latitude and longitude are flipped in the first set of coordinates, so that can maybe be forgiven. But with the second set, the professor never specified whether the numbers are north and south or east and west. No wonder they spent so long on the island. The voice of Bugs Bunny makes an appearance. In the episode New Neighbor Sam, the castaways hear what they think are conversations between gangsters hiding out on the island. Turns out the voice is actually a parrot. The voice of the bird was provided by cartoon legend Mel Blanc, who also voiced a similar bird in the Perry Mason episode The Case of the Perjured Parrot. The theme song's famous composer. If you watch the credits for Gilligan's Island, you'll see music composed by Johnny Williams. The young composer may have been known as Johnny at the time, but you'll likely recognize the name from other famous movies. John Williams went on to score Jaws and Star Wars, among other massive hits. The lagoon was awfully close to a busy highway. Gilligan's Island was filmed on the CBS backlot, which was next to the Hollywood freeway. This led to a lot of problems with capturing the actors' voices without getting traffic noise along with them. This led to many delays when filming had to stop because large trucks were passing by. Mary Ann and the professor were initially considered extras. Even though they're two major characters, Mary Ann and the professor were considered extras in the early episodes. They were omitted from the opening and simply referred to as the rest. According to Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann, they joined after the pilot aired. Because of pre-existing contractual agreements, it was difficult to renegotiate the opening credits. After the first season, Bob Denver insisted they be added to the opening credits since there were 7 people on the island. Gilligan's full name. Debate about whether Gilligan had a full name has been going on since the show first premiered. In the pilot, he was briefly named Willie Gilligan, but since the show changed so much between the pilot and first episode, that's not considered canon. According to Dawn Wells, the show's creator Sherwood Schwartz gave Gilligan one name on purpose. He made the characters wear the same clothes for the same reason. Charlie Chaplin always wore the same thing, so you identified him immediately. Schwartz did the same for Gilligan. Now it's time to hear from you. Who is your favorite Gilligan's Island character? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.